So we're checking out an investment property in Maryland. It's about, 30 minutes outside DC. It sits on maybe 3/4 of an acre. We probably can't show we can't show the inside of the house. We won't obviously talk about the location. But the point of this video is to really talk about how we value potential investment opportunities. And Tim has his own formula for valuing properties, and I sort of use my gut to complement his formula. And so I'll let Tim sort of talk about his process.
So my formula basically is the potential that I see in the property divided by the cost of the property. And then I have a whole bunch of factors that sum into that, and then weightings based on my priorities. So probably the first thing I look at for an investment property especially is the rent potential. So Zillow has an estimate, their Z-estimate, rent to Z-estimate, Zestimate. And they show you what they think the monthly rental income could be on a property. And so that I use that as the first component of my formula. And then I do the house size in square feet, the lot size in acre, and a few other things. I look at the condition of the property. If it's a gut job, it's worth a lot less.
Does the cost per square foot factor into the matrix at all?
Yes. So the cost per square foot in the end, the square foot factors into the potential, and like I said, the cost is the denominator, and so that is square foot per cost. Higher is better. Higher square foot, lower cost.
And so what Tim hasn't said is this is really a massive spreadsheet that has tons of columns of data. He'll put in how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, how close a property is to a metro, the school district, I believe. Just tons and tons of data. And each of the columns, each of the cells, they factor into a score. And ultimately, in the end, there is a score that kicks out, right?
Right. Yeah. Right now, my score it puts out a number between like 50 and 150, and then I can just prioritize which property I'm looking at and how I think they compare. And then it also gives me a basis for negotiation, like I said, of the list price. If you're going to actually buy the property, how far are you going to negotiate with the seller and the seller's agent? And
for the most part, his approach, I consider it to be extremely conservative when you're looking at the cost of the house. Not that I like to pay more for a house, but the market rate is usually substantially higher than what his spreadsheet kicks out. And so what I'll do is sort of use my gut to look at, all right, what would someone reasonably pay for this property, and what should the property go for without him telling me what his spreadsheet has kicked out. And usually we are within $10,000 to $20,000 of the rate that like I come up with and he comes up with. And so my gut is pretty spot on. But now, since we've talked about the valuation of properties and how we approach looking at opportunities, let's take a look at this lovely place that we're at right now, and just show you some of the what we do with a place like this, Tim. Property that's here.
This is like you said, it's 3/4 acre. It's a relatively large lot.
Oh, it goes way back here, huh?
Yeah.
Wow. This almost looks like a dog kennel of some sort.
Yeah, it's a huge barn.
No, not the barn. I'm talking about this thing right here.
Yeah, either dog kennel or chicken coop. I think it was dogs.
Well, maybe it was chicken. You see the little stand there in the center? Here's a chicken. Yeah, because this thing looks like you would house chickens in it.
Right.
We're looking at.
So this is a pulled meter, so it means that there's no electricity to the house. So the electricity comes from the electric company up around here. So those are still live, and so really, this is very dangerous. But well, probably it's cut off at the
pole?
at the electric pole. Yeah. You have to get a permit to put a meter back in there, and get it all turned back on.
So Tim saw something really cool here.
So this used to be a barn that was detached from the house, but now they've built an addition and attached it. But it has a second meter, so it's with second meter you can sometimes there's a chance that you could have separate dwellings on a single lot. Although it's very difficult. It's getting more and more difficult all the time. But yeah, that's another pulled meter, and you can see the lines go to the electric pole.
So any last minute thoughts from this quick adventure and checking out this opportunity?
Sure. So this is a good example of the crossover between the formula style that I use and the gut feeling style that you use. It's hard to figure out when you look at a property how much it's going to cost to get it into income producing state. And so there's just rough techniques I use to say, if it's a complete gut job, it's going to add, $50,000 to $100,000 worth of work. But it's hard to get that sliding scale exactly right. There are several public websites that you can use to get a feeling for the history of a property, such as Maryland Department of State Department of Assessments and Taxation, and all other states have similar type information. The tax records. How if they're up to date on taxes, things like that, how recently it's been lived in.
But this one would be really tricky because it's the house has converted barn space into living space. And
True.
So aside from setting the tax records aside and all that jazz, I'm more so speaking about getting the house ready and good condition for renting. You just don't know what you're going to find in such a drastic converted space. And so with this one, I don't know that my evaluation would be close to yours. We'll see. I think the list was like 244. I think it should definitely be less based on just some of the stuff that I'm seeing on the exterior of the house. But again, the location of this property is really, really good, and it's 3/4 of an acre. And so, I mean, I've seen investors with cash and the ability to flip houses really quick buy a house like this, just looking at it, anywhere from $250 to $280. And so if the market's still crazy, I can see it going above that. I don't think we would pay that for this house.
True. Yeah, with the market the way it is right now, we might not get a reasonable might not be able to negotiate a reasonable price. So like you said, if this is an investment, it's going to be difficult because it has non-traditional structure.
Yeah.
It would be difficult to get insurance on it. It would be difficult to sell it to traditional families that would look at it for rental and stuff like that. So there are a lot of considerations that would have to go into this.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your insights.
Definitely. So when I bust this apart, you can sort of see in this hole right here, you might not be able to see, but there's a wing, there's a little black wing sticking out and then little legs. And so then I bust it apart. You can see 3 of those perfect holes right there. When I bust it apart, it shows, oh my goodness, this is crazy. It shows bumblebees. They're hibernating inside the wood. So they create these perfect little round holes, and then these are all lined up. Maybe they warm each other up when they
look huge.
Organized on top of each other. Yeah, bumblebees are big bees, especially around here. I don't know. But all the bumblebees I've seen them be. They're hibernating. Look, this one sort of it was curled up into a fetal position, sort of, or at least into a hibernating position. And when I chopped across it, its legs expanded, sort of. I think it was automatic. I don't think it's doing it intentionally. I think it's frozen. It's in a hibernating frozen state. But look at the holes, like towards the top of them. They look like they're routed or something because they're so perfectly rounded.
Do you think
crazy.
the bumblebees like chew through there or something?
Yeah, I have to think that these holes were made by the bumblebees because they fit the bumblebees perfectly. It's not like an ant would make a hole that big unless it was going to store eggs in there.
Oh my God, I have so many questions.